Hi, the chapter 10 this time. Enjoy hell in capital letters. Bit camp, isn't it? It's Thursday night. On Monday, the tests start. We can't hang out at the tennis courts anymore, with school back in session. So we are back in the galloping maggot. We are in McDonald's car park. Heather showed up, and it was like, I don't know. There was a change in atmosphere. Rue wrinkles his brow. Remind me, Heather? Maeve's teacher friend, says Fiona. She clocks my expression. What? I'm not even taking the piss. She is. She's a counselor, not a teacher. What else did Aaron say? Rue asks, stroking my hair. Was there anything we could use to take down the children? He told me that we have no future, and I am terrified that he's right. Nothing important. I hesitated. He said, saw you at college. He blinks, bewildered. I didn't see him. Maybe they are getting better at watching us, observing us without our knowledge. Lily dips her finger in the container of sweet and sour sauce and licks it. I think I'm being followed. Well, we all turn to her, dumbfounded. What? I said, I think I'm being followed. Why? Why do you think that? She stops, fidgets, works out exactly what she means. Then, a man followed me to school today. What man? I replied. I don't know. Someone you've met before, Fiona asked gently, knowing that Lily's facial recognition has not been great since the river. Lily shrugs in response. Lil, this is a kind of a big deal. Maybe you guys, she says absently, but I can just spark them if they try anything, so I'm not afraid. Rue shifts uncomfortably and looks to me. Maybe the two of you should start getting the same bus in the morning. What's Maeve going to do? Lily asks before I have time to respond. All she can do is read minds, and not even that well. I wanted to dispute this, but she's not wrong. I still need so much concentration and focus to hack someone's brain, particularly a stranger's, that it's hard to see how I could help her, but I agree that we should get the bus together. Do you think they are trying to suss out Lily? Talent scout. Her or something else? Fiona asks soundly, mildly offended that no one is attempting to talent scout her. There's a special surprise assembly for all 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th years at St. Bernadette's. Doesn't have a hall big enough to hold most of the students, so they stagger assemblies throughout the day, starting with the youngest. All day you can hear snatches of gossip about what the assembly entails, but as 6 years now, we don't deign to listen to any of it. It's just because they brought lads in to talk to us, Fiona says, craning her neck as the 4th years file into the double doors of the main hall. You would swear they were like famous. They are just guys. Towards the end of the day, it's our turn, and there are so few of us that we share the assembly with the 5th years. You can already see everybody holding themselves apart, terrified someone's going to mistake one of us for one of them. At the front of the room there are 3 boys, all in their early 20s. For an awkward moment I'm afraid they are going to break into the song. They are all standing in a way that suggests choreography, and their looks are so different that it's like they were selected to appeal to the collected fancies of an all-girls school. One is broad and gently looking, like someone who might build a log cabin and then carry you inside it. One is skinny, has pretty puckered, bruised looking features, like how Leonardo DiCaprio used to look in the 90s. One looks like a cartoon astronaut. They are all smiling at us. There's a strange mix of silence and giggling going on in the room, like the noise a beehive makes, as you start to walk toward it. "Afternoon, girls," says the cartoon astronaut. "Thanks so much for accepting the invitation." A big laugh goes up, as if this is a real joke. "I'm Ethan," says the astronaut. "I'm Jeremy," says the pretty one. "And I'm Tom," the big one finishes, with a sort of jazz hands flourish. Fiona leans over to my ear. "Kill me," she whispers. There's no awkward way to say, "This is frankly Ethan says," so I'm going to come out and say it, and you can hate me for it, or not, but you are all beautiful, intelligent girls with a bright future, and we've been asked to talk to you all so we can pretend the wrong guys screwing up those features forever. This doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just going to stop it and reread it. No, it's fine. It's just something that Ethan had said, that they were pretty girls and that boys or guys could ruin their futures. So there's some mumbling in the crowd. Fiona, Lily and I look confusedly at one another. Lord knows there are enough teen mothers in the world, laughs Jeremy. More mumbling, some uncertain laughter. Look, says Tom, we are talking to you guys about sex and relationships. What follows is the strangest 40 minutes I have ever spent in St. Bernadette's, and I was once locked in the cupboard for an entire afternoon with a deck of cursed tarot cards. They say they are going to talk about sex, but they don't really say about sex at all. What they talk about is not having sex. They talk about how condoms fell, how the pill makes girls sick, how hormonal contraception is multi-billion-dollar industry, not unlike the opioid crisis in America. Then there's a role play. My God, is there a role play? A 5th-year girl is taken to the front of the room. Her name, we are told, is Amalia. She reminds me of a little of Lily before the river, a bit gawky, a bit dreamy and naive. Ethan is holding a roll of sellotape, and I am briefly worried he's going to use it to gag her. Instead, he puts a long length of tape on her school jumper. Now, let's say Amalia meets a guy and falls in love with him and has sex with him, he says. At this, he rips the tape off. Amalia blushes. He smiles at her. The room ripples with laughter. He puts the tape back on, and now, a few years later, Amalia goes to college and meets a new boyfriend, and she has sex with him. The same length of tape is ripped off, and then Amalia goes to the club, meets someone there, they get friendly, and they have sex. Again with the tape. This is all so weird that the laughter has stopped, and everyone is just embarrassed and confused. The constant associating of poor, shy Amalia's name with sex is getting too strange. Then I meet Amalia. Ethan smiles. I fall in love with her. I want to marry her. Amalia is now beetroot red, staring at Ethan's huge arms, trying not to be visibly pleased by this development in her apparently exciting future sex life. He takes the tape off and puts his wrist alongside Amalia's. He tries to wrap the tape around their wrists, but it just waves around. The sticky underside covered in school jumper lint. See, he says, it doesn't work. Use new tape, someone yells. I can't, he says mournfully. Amalia can only give her tape away once. Afterwards, Lily and I are confused. Fiona, though, is how dare you? She storms. How did Miss Harris let that happen? That kind of insane, ridiculous, nonsensical, shut shamming belongs in freaking 50s. This pill makes women sick. What the hell is that? It was weird, I say, still dazzled. Poor Amalia. This idea that virginity is some gift you can give a man? Give me a break. Only men are arrogant enough to think that they could put something in us and change the way we are. I give this some thought. I feel weird about the word virgin and how it applies to me. I technically am one, although that differentiation is getting vanishingly small the longer Rue and I are together. We had a conversation about it a few months ago during one of those rare moments where it simply seemed to make complete sense to have sex. An empty house, a long evening ahead, the fact that we were naked and on my bed already. But I just wasn't quite ready, which he seemed surprised by, given that I tried to drag him into bed that night of the ritual. The only thing I can compare it to is sleepovers. When Lily and I were about 9, there was a big craze in our primary classes for big group sleepovers, real event sleepovers, and I also found them oddly frightening. I dodged what few invitations I received, just because the idea of sleeping in a room with 5 other people felt weird to me. And then one day, it didn't make me anxious anymore. There was no explanation. My brain just got used to the idea, and I went to a sleepover, and it was fine. That's how I feel about sex, like I'm waiting for my brain to catch up with it. When I explained this to Rue, he thought it was funny and true. He also said that he wouldn't broach sex again until I was ready. Then I got awkward about it, the idea of just telling him I was ready, and he kissed me and said, just say the word sleepover. And what's even weirder, Fiona continues, still raging, is that people in their way take in by it. You could tell girls were just drinking it in. Younger girls, I corrected. No one from our year. I know, but that's even stranger. The younger years are usually even woker than us. Why were they going along with it? I shrugged. We are always hearing about how the younger girls are apparently nicer to one another. We are the problem here, after all. It sounds like a cob of bullshit, I say. Then I stop. Do you think it was cob bullshit? For a second we are all silent. They are all like Aaron's clones, I say. Bile rising in my throat, and then I remember something. That day in the cafe when Aaron came and sat with me. He had 3 guys with him, around my own age. I didn't really get the good look at them, but now I'm convinced that Ethan, Jeremy and Tom were the boys on the couches that day. My throat feels tight. I fumble at my collar, expecting to feel my old uniform tie there. Instead, just finding the flat cotton of my t-shirt, I tug at the air around my neck. Touching nothing. The restricted feeling, the sense of tightening. They are in the school, my school. I run away. I run my fingers along my collarbone. No, not a school tie, something closer to a noose. So she gets the feeling of her old school tie, but it is an invisible noose. Let's see what that means in the next chapter. See you there. Bye bye.